is Martika Ornella Wilson, and this year I worked with East Harlem and different community organizations focused on combating displacement and gentrification. So this is East Harlem, in case anyone doesn't know. There's a lot of art on a lot of buildings. It's really beautiful, and it's a great neighborhood that I have been a part of for 20 years. And like many residents of East Harlem, I am an immigrant. I was born in Trinidad. I moved to East Harlem when I was 5. And like many of my neighbors, I'm also worried that gentrification will displace a lot of us. Can you hear me? Okay. So as a part of this community, the first step was thinking about how do I establish myself as a journalist, and what is the role of social journalists in activism spaces. So the first thing I learned to do was to listen to the residents of East Harlem. I wanted to work with other community organizations, not create my own, but sort of see what they're already doing, collaborate with them to help them reach their goals and to elevate their voice and not my own, even though that's very difficult because I have a lot of opinions on this gentrification and displacement. So I think this is a pretty great quote. If you can pay, you can stay. This pretty much sums up gentrification. And this is from a man who lives in public housing, Willie Davis, who sort of directed a lot of my early research. Okay, so one issue with journalism and covering underreported communities like East Harlem is that people don't feel like their perspectives are going through. There's this idea that East Harlem is this monolith, it's gentrifying, so everyone is mad about that, and there's no real diversity in opinions in the neighborhood. This man, Hodge Rudy, he's an East Harlem landlord. He's an example of someone who is not totally against gentrification. He likes cleaner streets, he likes diversity, he's a landlord, so maybe he's not as worried about it, but he also is one of, I think, the best landlords in East Harlem. He rents out his one-floor apartments for less than $1,000 a month in the neighborhood, and he has for about 2 decades now. This is Julio Rodriguez. He's an East Harlem resident. He lives in East River Plaza houses. He is worried that he's going to be pushed out. So that's another myth of public housing in the city. People who live in NYCHA are also worried about displacement. They're worried about their buildings being privatized. They're worried about their rents going up. They're worried about middle-income people moving in and pushing them out. And so there's a diversity of opinions that they feel journalists are not covering in their reporting. So my goals. Understand gentrification and displacement. It's not very easy to understand. It's a pretty big, meaty topic. Engage diverging community organizations. Some organizations I met with, like El Barrio Unites, Community Voices Heard, Church of the Living Hope. These are different organizations who have different goals in the neighborhood. And also to do more immersive reporting in East Harlem. A lot of the media organizations that are doing this reporting in the neighborhood, like DNA Info and El Diario, are sort of kind of covering the bases of what's going on, but a lot of people feel that they're not really getting deep into the nuances of this problem. So, here's a graphic. One of the issues that is related to public housing is affordability, and that's something that a lot of people don't understand in their reporting. When you talk about affordable housing, that means something completely different to people in East Harlem who earn maybe less than $30,000 on average a year. And so that's a much different story you're gonna have to write than something about displacement in Williamsburg, where the income is much different. So this is a quote I got from Vicki Been at a forum at NYU. I was not only covering community organizations and individuals in East Harlem, I also wanted to cover the institutions that are behind the movement and what they're saying, because this is also part of this combative struggle in the neighborhood. So this is a clip from a November 17th action, just to show you this is El Barrio Unites and just how tense the situation is.
And I ask everyone here and their neighbors to say the same thing. So Matthew, your work is cut out for you. I know you do wonderful work for the Manhattan Borough President's Office, and Mrs. Brewer's been very supportive, but she got burned on the west side when they rezoned that whole area and put up the luxury apartments and offered 20% housing to people that now have to go into their own homes from a side poor door. And so all of this bullshit from the real estate industry is not taking any consideration from anyone else, from any of us that are here, and we're not buying it. So you can take that malarkey somewhere else. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Washington.
Okay, so that's El Barrio Unite. They have one pretty rigid stance on what rezoning and displacement means to them. This is Church of the Living Hope, which is a staple in East Harlem. They did their own organizing around displacement and gentrification and just overall neighborhood change. And so I helped them and a group of high schoolers interview about 400 people and find out what East Harlem feels. And so the range of problems, of course, relate to housing, related to police brutality, related to too many rats. Like there's a range of problems, and this is how they organized. Another organization that I worked with was Community Voices Heard. They have a sort of old school activist approach where we made a bunch of phone calls, we got protesters out. We also got them to get the press there, which was their main concern. And of course, sometimes it's really like, how do we get the New York Times here? And those sort of questions. We did get Political Pro there and DNA Info and El Diario to report on this small protest that just sort of sprang up in an East Harlem block. So community feedback. Before I sort of created, like a lot of my classmates, a Medium publication, I wanted to know what exactly is missing in reporting. And what I saw was from newcomers who feel like they're gentrifiers, they're lacking understanding, and also Chris Smith, who's lived in Jefferson houses his whole life. There's a feeling of, I don't belong, and there's sort of this equal disconnect from both sides of the community and the neighborhood. This is a quote from Caitlin, who's a newcomer to the neighborhood. So, New Harlem World. So far, I've had about 3 stories, because there's a lot of research that goes into this. And I'm writing about gentrification and how it differs from displacement. And because you have some organizations that are framing their methods through fighting gentrification and bakeries and that stuff, and then you have people that are saying, don't kick us out of this neighborhood, and we're talking about displacement. I'm also talking about TIL programs and different housing issues and all of the sort of like plethora of ways of simplifying this reporting in East Harlem, and also covering the nuances that people feel are not reported enough. And so this is a screenshot. And yeah, that's it.